And there we go. So let me share. All right. So today I did pass out or email out a thing on there, a text file that has 10 different queries in it, many of which we haven't even talked about yet. I get that. You don't have to do it, but I'm going to run through those queries with you because they mention a lot of things that, at least in my humble opinion, are important. All right. The other thing I'm hoping to do today is my class this afternoon is a lab. So I'm literally in a conference room here at Rankin's got two buildings in Wentzville. They've got a main building and then they've got a training center. I'm in the training center in the conference room, and I'm hoping that this afternoon I can create the two videos I promised. The one where I'll show you how to use MobiRise, and I'll throw together a very simplistic little electronic portfolio on myself. And then when we get done with that, I'll show you how you can take that information that's in there and put it to a special part of GitHub that's called GitHub Pages. And then you can literally, if you want to, give anybody the address to where that is, and then they can see what it is you're working on. So that's the plan for today. All right. Now, over the weekend, what I'm going to do is two things amongst other stuff, but I'm going to start working on the project, the database project we're going to do, but I have to go back and reread chapters 20, 21, and 22 and see if there's any material in any of those chapters that we should go through before we start with the project. We may start on the project next week already. All right. Well, I mean, we will next week, but we may start on Monday already. I am going to ask that this will be another thing that I'm going to ask, and it'll be totally taped, but that people code along. All right. And what I'm going to do is it's going to be very generic. And what I mean is, for example, let me just show you a quick example here. Right here, this is something that we've been working on in the afternoon class for the second year students. Now, am I right that, can you see movie list and a picture of Harry Potter?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So you can come in here, you can put whatever you want. So for instance, if I come in and I put in Avengers and I click the search button, it'll come up and it'll show me Avengers movies. And what this is doing is it's going out to the internet to what's called an API, or an application program interface. We talked a little bit about those yesterday, but it's going out to a part of the internet and it's grabbing this information and then making it available for me. All right. So I have gotten students to this point and I'm showing them, it's not finished yet, but when they click details, so right here on this Avengers, what should happen when they click details is it should go out literally to this site and it should go in and put in details. What details? Whatever they want to put in. But again, the idea is they're going out and they're grabbing information from the internet. The reason that I'm bringing that up to you is what we're going to be doing in this class. We're not going out and doing anything on the internet, but what we are going to be doing is we're going to be using a database. And actually, that program that I just showed you, literally, they're getting that information there. It's being stored. It's in a database. So what I'm saying is databases, you start on it in this class, but it's something that we're going to use in virtually every class. Now, historically, in the first class that you typically take, not the one you're in, but the one you typically take, which is AWD1000, which is the one that you guys will take next semester. Typically in there, we don't do a darn thing with databases. All right. But what I'm going to try to do at the end of the semester is bring in a simple example so you can see it in there also. So what I'm saying is this is just the start, so to speak, of the database journey. All right. But it sure as heck isn't going away. All right. So with that said, let's see. Dismiss that. All right. So again, we will be talking about databases in detail today. I've already mentioned this. There's no class tomorrow. All right, by Sunday, you have to create the Chapter 17 written test, the Chapter 18 written test, and the Chapter 18 link song project that we did together. I think that was Tuesday. Now with that, I got an email last night from one of the students saying that they never got a copy of all those songs that I had in there. So I sent that out this morning as well. All right. And I put it into a class that I called Song Manager. You've got everything that's in there. If you want to use that, fine. You want to use your own stuff, I don't care. All right. If you want to make it something other than songs, movies or something, like, you can do that. I didn't want people to have to go too far out on a limb and do things that really technically weren't part of the particular assignment. But if you want to do that, that's totally fine. So again, over the weekend, I'm going to look at chapters 20, 21, and 22. And either on Monday, we're going to look at some of the material in one or more of those chapters, probably just 22. But again, I want to look at it again just to be sure. And or we're going to start on this database project. And for this database project, what I'm going to end up doing is I am going to end up emailing you this information that's here. There's not a lot in here right now, but this is all stuff I picked up from Wikipedia. And again, I'm using Garth Brooks here. This is the name of an album. This is the year it came out. This is a write-up of the album. And this is the URL for where the picture of the album is. So we're going to come in and we will be working with two different tables. We'll create our own database, and then we'll work with two tables in that database to put in this information and probably a little bit of other stuff. And what's nice about this is, hopefully at least, the idea behind this project is it's going to pull together everything you've had all semester. And what I mean by that is we will have a splash page, so you'll be able to go from one form to another. As of right now, I built this with just two forms, a splash screen and then a form that's basically got everything in it. And what I'm thinking of doing, and what we might do, is break it up into multiple forms. So we have a bunch of them. I don't know yet. All right, depends on how much time I have, to be honest with you. We're also going to get into, again, working with classes. All right, and we'll get into working with databases. And those, between that and then working with stuff like if statements, loops, etc., that's been pretty much the hallmark of the class. So that's the reason that we're doing what we're doing at the end of the semester. Typically, what we try to do is, for every one of the classes that you take, we try to have some kind of a project in there. Now, normally I would have started on this project earlier, but since the biggest part of this project is databases, and since we're starting on databases now, it didn't make a lot of sense to do it before this. All right, so like I said, really next week we'll be getting into this project in some depth and breadth of coverage. All right, so with that said, this is what I sent you this morning. So I'm just going to quickly bring it up. And it's a simple text file. It has 10 different queries in it. I'm going to take some time to go over each one of these queries right now. I do want you to know that the reason that I put in this dash at the beginning here, this doesn't work. It doesn't work in PHP MyAdmin, which we're going to be in. But if you're using other products that work with databases, putting two dashes at the beginning of something makes it a comment. So I'm going to go through all 10 of these queries, all right, and I'm going to do them nice and slow. And if you have questions, I'm going to take for granted that you're going to ask, all right? So remember, again, this is some review, I know, and I don't want to waste my time or your time with a lot of review, but that said, all right, if you want to be working with this stuff, you will have to bring up PHP MyAdmin, all right? I did not mention yesterday, stupidly on my part, but when you go in here, you literally can leave this running, period. You can just leave it running if you want to. When you're done, you can typically click here, all right? And it's done. It's not running anymore, but I can bring it back up again by just clicking on here, or you can click quit. Now, sometimes when you click quit, you get these messages. It doesn't like to let you quit from here. I don't know why. It's some goofy quirk that's in the software itself. So you're better off. I'm just going to quit it from here. So where are we? So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say end the task. But so what I'm saying is you're better off once you've got this up and running to just click the X because that should get you out okay. It doesn't hurt at all to leave this thing up and running. It doesn't hurt at all. Again, because what you're doing in here with the Apache is you're basically allowing yourself to use your machine as both a client and a server. All right. And so there's really nothing that anybody else can do that's going to hurt you. All right. I did want to show you one more thing too that you might care about. You might not. All right. What I oftentimes do in several of the classes is I will show you how to do something. And I think it's much easier to do this from an interface that's like this. This at least is a semi GUI interface right there. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's not terrible either. But just so you're aware of this, if I go over here, and we did not go over this before, but I'm going to click where it says shell right there. All right. And let me make this bigger. And now I'm going to type in MySQL -u root, and I'm going to hit enter. All right. Now I'm in the same place that I was inside of here. I'm in the same place. All right. So yesterday we did something like, so what did we have here? We've got, I'm hoping that it's going to allow me to do this, but we're going to see. If I type in here now, show DBs, and you need a semicolon on the end. Oh, give me a break. I do not. I think it's show databases. There we go. It's got all of my databases, and you'll notice there's great movies. All right. So if I select, what is it? Do I have to say use? I've been working in another database that's got totally different commands. So pardon me. I don't know if I type in use here or not. Okay. And so if I type in select star from top 25 movies, that's the same stuff that we've been working with. There's nothing new in there. All right. All I'm trying to tell you is sometimes people like to sit there and play around with things from a command line. You never have to do this, ever, in this class or in any other class. All right. I always try to provide you with an interface that's at least somewhat GUIized. All right. And if you don't want to use this, then you just type in exit, and then it says bye right here, and you type in exit again, and you're out. All right. Now, the only reason I showed you that is, again, I'm trying to be complete here, and every semester I try showing this with to people. All right. Now, yeah, I'm going to just change the subject just for a second, but you know that we've been using Git and GitHub all semester. I know you know that. You know how to use it. Your stuff's been out there. But there are other GitHub products that you can use, just so you're aware of this. What I'm showing you always is what I use. So I'm the one, I come out here and I right mouse click and I choose Git bash here and I do all my stuff. I'm not going to go through it. You know what that is. All right. But if you don't want to do that, if you right mouse click, there is a Git GUI here. There is a GUIized version of this. I don't like it, but you can literally take and drag stuff from one side to the other. You can do the same operations we've been doing from a command line, but you're doing it from this window. All right. The other thing, and I'm going to show you quickly because I never use this. I don't know anything about it, but Mr. Gudmested, who is my partner in crime, so to speak, from the St. Louis campus, he teaches people to use the Git desktop. All right. I don't know
Professor,
anything about this. What's that?
real quick, I am having trouble staying connected to this meeting. I've been dropped a couple times, and every once in a while, your audio has just cut out.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's related to the internet issues you were having before, but I wanted to let you know in case I
Okay.
I am dropped.
All right. Well, if I lose you, I understand then. I'm on here and I'm on, let's see. You should be back. This is the room that I'm in. This is the best kind of connection I can make. I'm not sure how good the connection is as opposed to if I was in the other building, because I can't get to that network from this building. All right. So if, like I said, if I lose you, if I just ask questions and nobody answers, I'll understand why. Thanks for letting me know. But again, if you go out to desktop.github.com, this is the desktop version of using Git and GitHub. I know nothing about it because I've never used it. All right. I will tell you that in the third semester class, the one that I just showed you the picture of, where I've got the students who are doing this movie project, we're working right now with some software called React. They've been having problems getting their React program to load up to Git and GitHub using GitHub Desktop. So even though they don't do it the way that I do it, the way that I've shown you, I recommended yesterday that they try doing it that way. And I know at least one of the two people who was having problems, once he did it that way, everything worked fine. All right. And I'm not saying, again, the way I'm doing it is the best way. I'm saying the way I'm doing it is the way I do it. All right. So are you there, Grant, or not?
Yes, I'm here right now.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go into PHP My Admin right here. And again, you already saw this. This was our schema. We talked about this yesterday. You saw it yesterday. And when I browse, this is my data. Now, I tried purposely to set up some data where you could virtually see all of it on one screen. As you can imagine, if I went out, for example, to IMDb, which is the Internet Movie Database, they have hundreds of thousands of movies out there. All right. But I tried to keep this simple because we're just starting in here. All right. And that's why I thought, like I said, it would make more sense to do it like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this SQL window right here, and I'm going to start putting in these queries. All right. And I've got them written down just so you don't have to watch me type. All right. So the first one says, show the number of movies in the movies table. So let's put this one in and take a look at it. Hopefully that's big enough there that you can see it well. Now, there are about 10 different special functions or routines that exist inside of most relational database management systems like MySQL that we're using now. And those are, I'm just going to list them. I'm not going to run anything, but they're like count, there's a min, there's a max, there's an average, and then those are the ones that you're going to use the most often. But there's other ones in here, like there's one for standard deviation. So there's an STD and there's an STD DEV, and there's even some, as you can see, some offshoots of that. All right. So there's some stuff in there, and there are other ones too. All right. So there are some trigonometric functions. I don't know if they still have a cosine. No, that doesn't look like it's in there. But there used to be like sine and cosine and stuff. The ones that we're going to concentrate on are the four that are shown right here. Now, what this command literally means is basically star means just count everything that's in there. In other words, make a count of every single movie that's in there. And when it comes back, I want to put a title on it that's called total number movies. All right, there are 24 in there, so you're going to see that in just a moment. All right, now if I run this right now, it's not going to work because it's not going to understand what this stuff is. So let me remove that. All right, and then we'll go back and take a look at everything that's in here. So if I come down here, oh, where's my go button? There it is. So when I click go, it comes back, total number of movies, 24. And so again, looking, here's the query. All right, so count star means just give me a count. The as total number of movies, that gave us a new title. When I do this and I put words in there, if I would have just said as total, I don't need to use the double quotes. But since I've got a blank space here and a blank space there, I need to use the double quotes here. And the recommendation is you can get this to work sometimes with single quotes, but the recommendation is when you do this, that you use double quotes. So if I run this same query, the one you just saw, but I remove this as out of here, it'll still work. All right. But the thing is, it'll look different when I run it. And what I mean is, well, let's run it so you can see how it looks different. Boy, oh boy, I'm playing with my screen size here. And whenever I do, it always wreaks havoc with the go button. So now it just says count star. In other words, when I put the as total number of movies, I renamed that column. And you can rename any column. You can rename existing columns that are in the database, and you can create new columns like we're doing here, and you can name them anything you want. All right. So count is one of what are known as the aggregation functions. And I showed you quickly just a minute ago the 5 major aggregation functions, which are count, min, max, average. All right. There was one more. Well, there's 2 types of count. All right. So imagine for a second, and I want to show you something. I'm going to break out of here just to show you something. So imagine, I'm going to make this bigger so you can see what the heck I'm doing. All right. So imagine that I was an HR manager at a company and I just hired in 3 people. So I hired in John, and John's going to make $55,000 a year. And I hired in Jane, and Jane is going to make $60,000 a year. And I hired in Jack. We hired in Jack, but we haven't figured out what Jack's salary is going to be. All right. So if I go in, and you know this, I'm sure, but if I go in and I say, okay, looking at all the salaries that I've got in there, what's the average salary? So I can say it'll probably be $57,500. That should make sense. That's just adding these 2 numbers up and dividing by 2. All right. On the other hand, if I add all 3 of these up, even though there isn't a salary in this one, if I add all 3 of them up, now it's 115,000 divided by 3, which is going to be something like, I don't know, let's just say 38,500. So there's a big difference between those 2. The reason I'm telling you that is if I do a select and I do a count star, all right, what it does is it counts all 3 of these. So it's going to give me, coming back, it's going to give me that for an answer. All right, not count star, but if that's the other one, it's sum. So if I come in there and I do a sum star on that one, it's going to add up all of these. But if I put the asterisk in there, it'll only add up the ones where there's actually a number. So let me say that again and try not to screw it up. So if I say in there select, count, star, right there from, let's just say this was called payroll. All right, that's going to give me 38,500. And the reason it's going to give me that is it adds up everything, even when there's not a salary present. On the other hand, instead of using an asterisk here, which again means include what are referred to as null or unknown values, if I come in here and I type select, let me change that to sum. Or average would be even better. So select average star. All right. But if I come in and I say select average, and if I put in here salary, let's assume that's the name of that field, from payroll, then it only adds up the ones that actually have a salary in it. And it gives the true average, it gives the true average, which as you already saw was 57,500. The reason I'm spending a second to tell you this, I'm not trying to waste my time or your time, but I want you to understand that when you use these things, there's a difference between using the star, and really the only one you typically use count on or star with is count. All right. Otherwise, you typically would use, there really wouldn't be a big reason to use this one with the average. All right. But what I'm trying to show you is when you use star, it includes everything, including nulls. That's not going to typically be what you want. So when you look at this, and you're going to see an example in just a moment, but if I come in here and I'm going to show you all these. So I'm going to say select count star from payroll. All right. And if I do that, it's going to come back and it's going to say, show me all of them, even if there's no salary. It's going to show me 5. But if I say select count salary from payroll here. Yeah, increment. Yeah. Okay. Then it's going to give me 3. Oops, instead of giving me 5 here, not 5, giving me 3 here, it's going to give me 2. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now it sounds like my 2 students are here, so I'm gonna change focus a little bit so you can see what's going on. Okay. Good morning. Have a seat. Hopefully you can see well enough there. Normally, just so you know, the program is 100% online. So normally I'm broadcasting from my house, and I've got a little setup there, so I'm just improvising here, but I want to make sure that you could see what was going on.
Are you the
All right.
instructor?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay.
And they told me there were only going to be one of you, but so I've got a card. I can see if in my wallet I've got another card. I don't know if you're together.
We're
or
together.
You
I'm
are.
just his sister.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. All right. So I've got this, it's a small class. We've got 6 people. Out of the 6, Grant, my student right now, he is at home, I think, and he is listening and following along. Now I've got, for example, I've got another student, Andrew. He's a full-time paramedic. He works 100 hours a week. But I think he's trying to get into a different field because he's working 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
And he works until 5, so he watches these at 6 o'clock. I've got a YouTube channel. I'm going to show you where all that stuff is in just a minute. But I've already told Grant this, and I said what I'd like to do is quickly show you what's in the program and show you examples of the stuff that's in the program. You know, because so you can kind of see what you'd be getting yourself into. Okay. All right. And as it says on the card, my name's Jeff Scott, and my email's on there if you have questions or anything afterwards. Be totally fine. All right. The class, what we're doing here is, let's assume that you listen to this and you're like, this is kind of neat. I'd like to do this, but I don't want to do it online. All right. Then your alternative is to go to the St. Louis campus, because the whole program, which is 4 classes, which I'm going to explain to you right now, that is still available in a seated format at the St. Louis campus. All right. What they meaning people who know a lot more than I do, the administrators here, said, we think we're mixing out on a niche market. So we'd like to take, the numbers have always been lower here than they've been at St. Louis. All right. My average number of students in a classroom is about 10, and it's usually double that in St. Louis. But they said maybe we'd be able to pick up more students if we ran the program online. All right. Even if you go to the St. Louis campus, all of your general education classes, written communication, etc., those are all online. All right. Just so you know, and that doesn't matter what campus you go to. That's just the way that it's set up. All right. So usually the order in which people take classes are what's shown here. You first take a class called Web Development Technologies. Then you take another one called Programming Fundamentals with C#. Then you take one called Database-Driven Web Development. And then you take another one that's called Database-Driven Web Development. It's 1 and 2. All right. Now, what I will do is, if one of you, because I foolishly left some paperwork on my desk, which is in the other building. All right. But if one of you have an email, I'll be glad to email all this stuff to you. I have no problem at all doing that. All right. So normally students take them in this order. That's the order they had in the seated classroom. What they wanted to do was change the order up a little bit for people who are taking the course online. So in other words, this is the class that runs first. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, you go 2, 1, 3, 4 in the list of classes. All right. So the class that I'm in right now is this class. All right. The class that these people will take next semester is this class. All right. So the class that they're in right now, And like a Grant here who's listening, I have no idea if he had any experience or not, but I know there's at least a couple of people in that class that literally, other than maybe using Facebook, et cetera, and sending emails, they knew nothing about programming and nothing about computers. That's what we expect going in, is that you, not that you have little knowledge, but that you have no knowledge. All right. So for some people who come in, I mean, you look like you're you're young. So I don't know if you're still in high school, just finished high school, or recently finished high school. Okay. But sometimes when people have just finished high school, they may have taken a programming class already. So what I'm saying is for the first week, they may be a little bored. All right. I will tell you too that all the software that we use in the program, it's all free. It's all free and open source. Now you do have to have your own computer. I recommend that you use a Windows computer and not an Apple computer. I have had people who've gone through the course with an Apple computer. The last guy who did it, Nicholas, who's one of my students who'll graduate in December, he made it through the first class. And after 3 weeks, he said, this isn't working very well. So he went out and got himself. I mean, you can go to Walmart or Best Buy. You can buy one for $300 if you don't have one. Okay, yeah, then it shouldn't be an issue. Okay, so typically in the first semester, you learn how to create websites. Now, there's 4 major components in the first semester. And again, if you know what these are, sorry, but they're HTML, which is hypertext markup language, CSS, which is cascading style sheets, JavaScript, which allows you to put some interactivity into a web page, and something called Bootstrap, which is a way that you can basically, it's kind of an add-on to pretty stuff up. So to show you an example here, this is one of the things that we create partway into the semester. If I can find it, let's see. Oh, that's James. Let's see. I've got everything, but it'll just take me a sec. There it is. All right. So this is a site that we create fairly early into the semester. It's nothing fantastic, but you can see we've got a logo up here. We've got a home page. We've got an about page. We've got a frequently asked questions page, a page called BMI that I'll explain in a second, and a contact page. And this is just garbage text in here, all right, that we go out and grab, all right? But this is your navigation area in here. This is a footer down here. And what I do is I get you to a certain point. We build a lot of this together. And then I say, now I want you to personalize it and make it your own. The reason that you're asked to do that, to personalize it and make it your own, is all 4 semesters that you are here, you are required to go in and create an electronic portfolio about yourself. It has your name, it has your picture on it. You know, you can do it any way you want. This is James. James is one of my students that's going to graduate in December. He's a prolific student in that this summer he sent me an email and he said, hey, Mr. Scott, on a whim, I saw this ad for an aerospace company in O'Fallon. I think it's Sayer Industries. And he said, I sent a resume to him. He said, I know they won't get back to me. He said, but just in case, could you write me a letter of recommendation? And I did. And I didn't hear anything from him. A week went by, 2 weeks went by, 3 weeks went by. I thought I'm gonna email him. He got the job. So he's only been going 3 semesters. He's in his 4th semester now doing his stuff online. So he'll graduate December, but he's already out there. And I honestly, my guess is within 3 or 4 years, he'll be making more money than me. All right. You don't get into education for the money. Okay. Just so you know that. All right. But you come in here and then what have you got? Well, there's his resume that he just incorporated into here, and you can download it as well. Because what we're finding is these people, hiring managers, HR people, IT managers, they want to see samples of your work. They don't want to see an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. All right. There's just not enough on there to know whether they should even bring you in. So what we use here, and again, this may be something you know what it is and you may not, I don't know, but we use Git and GitHub here. And GitHub is basically it's a cloud server. So everything that you do, you put out to the cloud. And why do you do that? So you can send me an invitation. You make it private, but you send me an invitation so I can grade your work. All right. And that's how we set stuff up. In the first week of class, I run through how to use Git and I run through how to use GitHub. And I show people how I do it. There's 3 ways of doing it, but I show people what I consider to be the easiest way of doing it. So we run through that, but here's examples. So when you look here, if I go on my portfolio, All right. These are pictures of projects that James has created. And if you click learn more, that goes out. This is going out to GitHub. So somebody could look at his code if he gave them permission to do that. All right. And that's, again, like I said, what our hiring managers, that's what they want to see is that. All right. So like I said, this would be the kind of thing here that you would build. And just to show you quickly the other pages, we do some stuff in here. I literally grabbed these off the internet. But so you can go back and forth. You know, these are supposed to be like showing success stories. And then we've got this. It's a frequently asked questions page where you can see when you highlight it, it changes color. And when you click on one of these, you can click on as many as you want. And that's literally what it is frequently asked questions. And then you can click on it again to make it go away. All right. And then that stuff, I'm just going to go to the last page because I have people create their own form. It's a mythical form. It's not going anywhere. Everything we do in the first semester is what's known as client-side development. You're making it for a user and it's very simplistic stuff. When you get to the third semester, and I'll show you one of those projects in a minute, you're going from the other end. So rather than doing it from the client side, you're doing it from what's called the server side. All right. So if I come in here and I leave this blank, all right, and I click a submit button, you can see I get all those errors. And as I start filling stuff in, so I put in my name, you'll notice that those all go away. All right. So when I come in here and I'll just put in my stuff and, I just fill all this in, you'll notice for the state, it says select your state, but I don't have a state in there. So those messages are still in there. All right. So you come in here, let's select Missouri. All right. So now notice the zip code. It says you either have to put it in as 5 numbers or 5 numbers, a dash, and 4 numbers. So if I just put in here 6 and I click submit, now I get a different error. All right. And if I put in 6, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, which is legal, now it takes it. But if I put a dash in there with nothing after it, it's again giving me an invalid message. So people learn not just how to do things, but how to validate it to make it work the way it's supposed to work. All right. So if I come in here and do this, all right, then again, it works. Now, then a telephone number, and it expects with the phone number in here, it expects it to be in this kind of a format. So like 314-286-3675. All right, that's actually my number here at Rankin. Okay, and now if I click that, it all worked, and it tells me everything passed. And then, so these are just text fields. This is what's called a drop-down list, and it's got all 50 states plus the District of Columbia in it. You don't have to worry. It's like people, man, I got to type all that. You go out to the internet, and you find it, and you drop it into your program. All right. So that's all that stuff. These are called radio buttons, and I just default one of them. So if I click on one, you can see it gets selected and the other one isn't. If you put an age in here, etc., and reasons, these are check boxes. You can check 0 or 1 or all of them. All right. If I click this button here that says reset, it sets it back to the way it was. So that's what we start doing. The first 30 days of the class, you learn HTML, which is how to put this stuff on a page. And you learn CSS, which is how you pretty up a page. In the last 50 days of the semester, because each class is 80 days long, all right? So in the last 50 days, you learn JavaScript, which brings interactivity in. Now, I don't have it on this copy, but one of the things that we bring in here is we bring in a clock right here, just so you can see at any time what the date and time are. That's a little bit, like I said, with the interactivity. Then the other thing that we do, this is a regular form, and you may or may not be familiar with this, but this allows you to figure out your body mass index. So it says for your height and weight, are you considered underweight, optimal weight, overweight, or obese? All right. So if somebody comes in there and let's say they're 72 inches, meaning they're 6 feet, but they're ungodly thin. So you put in 100, it says, well, there's your BMI and you're underweight for your height. All right. And then if you come in and you say, well, pretty much optimal would probably be on 170 maybe. And that person is of optimal weight. If you're heavy, so 200, you're now overweight. And if you put in a big number there, all right, Euro base. All right. So this is, and it's all done based on what's in here. And again, you can reset it anytime. If I don't put anything in, I get an error message here. All right. And I even show you it's not on this there it is. So if you notice, you might have to count slowly to 5, but the message disappears. So you learn all of that kind of stuff in there. So that's what you learn in the first semester. All right. Then in your second semester, the one that that Grant and Chad and other people are in is this one. This is a true programming class. You learn the C# programming language. All right, that's the whole semester is about this. Again, we assume when you come in, you have virtually no programming experience. All right, so some of the people have taken this class first, so they've already programmed in JavaScript, and then they come into here, and other people, this is their first class. All right, but we assume that everybody coming in has no experience. So we start literally, from scratch. The books that we use for most of the classes, I can show you those in a minute. And you can get either PDF copies of them, or you can get hard copies of them, or you can get both.
And
All
then
right.
is that extra cost extra at all, or is that?
Yes, yeah, that's not included in the cost of the course. And they run the books that we use for the three or two of the classes, they usually run about $50 a book. Approximately, might be a little more, 50 to 60. All right. And you can order them through our bookstore. You can order them through Amazon. I will tell you, you'll probably get a better deal going through Amazon because the bookstore has got to put up their own markup and stuff in there. All right. Okay. So with this one, I'm just going to show you, this is one of the ones that we have been working on. It's right there. So what I did was I created a list of about 30 songs. All right. So just to show you, here they are. So here's the songs. Some of them I just went out to the internet and found them. Some of them are things I grew up with, etc. All right. So what we're doing is we're taking those songs and making them available in our program. And notice now they're all in ascending order based on the title. So you can see they're in alphabetic order. All right, right there. So if I come in here and I say I want it in artist order, all right, then if I click search, now notice, yeah, you can tell I like the Beatles, but you can see in here that they're all in order based on that. And if I choose genre and click search, then I get classics followed by country and pop, etc. All right. Now, the other thing that we can do in here is we can search for a particular song. And we don't even have to give it the entire song. Okay. So for instance, if I type in it's going to find almost everything. All right. There's a lot of songs in here that have the word the in them. So if I put in the, all right, there's a the in here, etc. So it finds all those. And we can do that. I don't want to bore you with this, but we can do that by title or by artist or by genre. And if you put in something, so let's say I chose artist and I put in the in here, there probably isn't anything that matches. So it's just, I guess there is. All right. But if there is no match, so let's just do that. I'll put in genre here and we'll search and I'm going to put in hello. All right. And it comes back with nothing. But I've showed people how they can actually bring up a message box that says there's nothing that meets that criteria. All right. So this is the kind of stuff that we do. Again, this may seem like a really simplistic program, but the reason we're doing this now is starting next week, we're going to build basically the equivalent. It's going to look like a website, but it's going to bring up a page like this, and it'll have an artist on there and pictures of all of his or her albums. And you'll be able to go from there to other pages where we're actually going to have a database of that artist's work. And you're going to be able to sit there and look at all the work and change anything you want to change in there. So that's where we're going in that class. So again, that's the second semester class. And as I mentioned, it's a class. So this is the code that goes along with that, just so you know. All right. And then in the third semester, this is called database-driven web development. We do something that's called, we work with something that's called the MERN stack, M-E-R-N. And I will tell you that when I brought this up at the beginning of the semester, and I said to people, because it's not in the right up here, I said, how many of you know what MERN is? Just answer if you're watching and nobody knew. It's an acronym. We use a different database that's called MongoDB, MongoDB, and it's free. All right, you can use it for free. All right, that's the M. The E is something that's called Express, spelled just like you think it would be. The R is something that I'm going to show you in a minute. It's called React. All right, and the N is it stands for Node, Node, Node.js. All right, so we spent the first couple weeks of the class going over Node in detail. All right, and we went back and we reviewed some of the JavaScript stuff we did in their first class, because for some people, it had been a year since they'd looked at any JavaScript. So the first couple weeks, we went from JavaScript into Node, so they understood that. And then we brought Express in, which is the thing you use with Node. And then we went in and we looked at two different databases. All right, we looked at MySQL, MySQL, because it's an easier one. We looked at that first, and then we looked at this Mongo. All right, now we're getting into React. All right, and just to show you, see, I think I've got a copy of one of those projects up here as well. Yeah. So again, maybe I showed you this and maybe you saw it when you walked in, I don't know. But if I come in here, for example, and I type in Harry Potter and I click search, it's going out to the internet, and there's something called IMDb. It's the Internet Movie Database. And I'm going out there and I'm making a query. I'm asking it to show me all the films in here that have Harry Potter. All right. And we're not there yet, but where we're going to get to is when you click the details button. Right now, you see it doesn't show anything, but it's going to show a picture, and what it's going to show is anything they want to show out here. Where they go out to this website, there's tons of information out there. All right, but I get them to a certain point and I teach them the fundamentals, and then I tell them, okay, now what I want you to do is personalize this. The reason for that is they're going to take some of these projects and put them in the portfolio I showed you before. And if we've got 3 people applying for the same job, I don't want them all to look alike. In fact, I want them to look drastically different. I've told them that, they're with this one that we're working on here, if everyone's looks totally different, I'm doing my job. But if everybody's looks the same, that's not a good thing. All right, so let's see. And then in their last semester, now this class is changing, just so you know. What we had been doing in this class, now we're not doing it anymore, but what we had been doing in this class is in here we taught people Java programming, and then we taught them how to make Android apps. We created probably a dozen Android apps as a class that did all sorts of things. Then with about halfway into the semester, students had to literally go in and from scratch, they had to make their own app. They had to draw specifications, they had to do everything, and they had to put it into the App Store. Now, if you do that, that's the one time in here there's a charge. It's $25, it's a one-time charge. All right. And then you're basically considered an Android developer forever. And I've got a couple things out there, and I've got students that have got projects out there as well. But what we found, every year we have 2 meetings. In fall, we have a meeting where we bring in people from business and industry, and we say, what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong? All right. We typically have it on the same day. We have job fairs here too. There was just a job fair a couple weeks ago at the St. Louis campus. 485 potential employers were there. They've got this big automotive area where students, learn to fix cars and and that whole room was just filled with people. They had so many people, there weren't enough room for them. So they opened up another building. They have one here, literally in the area that's right behind me with the door shut. And they had about 100 people there. All right, out of those 100, they had about 50 of them were in that big building. They had about 20 of them in here, and 20 of them were in that other building. All right. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is we have another meeting in spring, and it's called our Alumni Advisory Committee. So it's people who have graduated. We try to get people who have graduated within the last 5 years, so they're still current. And anybody can come, any alumni, but we try to get people who are working in the field. All right. Well, what we found out at our last meeting, and this was last spring, no one who's gone through this program in the last 3 years has gotten a job as an Android developer. No one. And so we said, well, maybe we ought to make some changes and not teach what we're teaching. Personally, I thought it should have just been a class in Java. But the people who are above me said, no, what we want to do is we want to take this C# stuff that we've been doing just regular programming on, and we want to teach people in here how to basically make websites using C#. And there is a market for that out there, just so you know. All right. I mean, we've had a lot of people who have graduated from here, for example, that have gone to work at MasterCard. All right. You know, and there are other places as well.
Is C# the same as C++? Or is
No,
that totally different?
no. In fact, the whole thing started with a language called B. All right. And then from B, they made C. C is about 50 years old. When I started programming professionally, I was a C programmer. All right. For several years. But then one of the guys who worked for AT&T Bell Laboratories took the C language and kind of rewrote it, rewrote parts of it that became C++. See, one thing that you have to sign when you go to work for Bell Laboratories, that's where I work too, that you have to sign is anything that you create while you're there is the property of Bell Laboratories. So I had a guy that I knew of, he created something for his lawnmower, but it was given to Bell Laboratories. Well, this guy, his name is Bjorn, he's from another country, I think, Bjorn Strostrup. He's the one, he sued, and I think he won, and that's his. C++ is his. All right. Well, years later, Java came out as a programming language, and Microsoft wanted to have somewhat of an equivalent to Java. That's how C# was born. All right. So I mean, I gave you like the long version of the history, etc. But I've always said that C# is Microsoft's version of Java. Now, if we had somebody here from Microsoft, they'd probably be yelling at me and telling me how wrong I am, but it pretty much is true. The learning curve to go from C# to Java or Java to C# is about a month. So we've had people who, you know, basically here who have had very little Java, but have had a lot of C# and went to work as Java programmers, and they didn't struggle at all. All right. So again, I've shown you that, and I'll send you this. Like I said, this is my YouTube channel. All right. So if you forget it, I mean, it's real simple because if you just go out here and you just go to YouTube, all right, just go to regular YouTube and you come in here and you type in Jeff Scott Rankin Technical College like that, you'll see that one of the things that comes up. Now I've been here, it's about 6.5 years. I've got almost 2,500 videos out there. So you can see exactly what you're getting yourself into. All right. Every day that I lecture, I tape it. This is being taped right now. All right. So in fact, if you're interested, I can send you the link to this afterwards so you can see, you know, and it's my voice. All right. Sometimes you see a picture of my granddaughter, but it's my voice and it's the computer. People never see me. Now I can when I'm in Teams like this, because Teams is what we use. And if you've never worked with Teams, it's just Microsoft Zoom. All right. But so this is here right now. I can go if I wanted to, I could bring the camera up and I could show me, but I don't do that. All right. And I don't make some instructors here, when they teach their classes in an online format, they still make all their students come and they make them have their cameras on and they make them have their microphones on. I don't do that because, like I said, Grant's the only one here listening right now, live. But I can tell one of my students, Chad, he sent me an email this morning. He said, hey, you said you were going to send this to us. You didn't send it yet, just so you remember. So I sent it out. And I mean, he's doing great in the class. Right? So like I said, if you go out there and that'll be mine here. All right. And it's interesting because my subscribers are going up. I mean, some of these people have thousands, hundreds of thousands, etc. But here's the one I did for this class yesterday. And I don't have the sound up. Yeah. All right.
C#.
No, this is something that's called SQL, structured query language. This is database stuff. This is basically how you come in and create a table, and then this is how you put the data in the table. All right. So like I said, this is what you see all the time. All right. And I will tell you, I want to be honest with you too. I started with 14 and I'm down to 6. Now, why is that? All right. Out of the 6, they're the 6 best students grade wise and stuff. All right. But I had 2 people in the first week they dropped. They just said it was way too much work. But this isn't high school. All right. I mean, I'll always remember this, that I had a student, I used to teach at a different technical college, and I had a student one day, I had sent out reports on him, letting him know that he was failing the class. And I talked to him after class. I said, there's 6 weeks left in here and you're failing. And he said, no, I'm not. And I said, you haven't done any work for 6 weeks. You're failing. And he goes, no, I'm not. I said, well, what do you think you have? He said, either a B or C. And I showed him the grade book. And I showed him his grades. I said, how do you think you get that? And he said, ass time. And I said, what do you mean? He said, that's how I got through high school. He said, I never did work and I got B's and C's in everything I did. I said, well, this is a technical college. We can't do that. So the way that this is set up here is we give A's, which basically is 90 something to 100, B pluses, B's, C pluses, C's, and F's. There's no D. If you get under a 74.5%, you fail. And you cannot take the next class if that happens. All right. In addition, and one thing that kind of makes Rankin different than any other school I've ever heard of is they also give you in here, I'm just going to show you this, make it nice and big so you can see it.
You fail, so how does that work? Because I know the program will continue. You'll continue with the other courses.
You can continue with your gen eds, but then you have to retake that class. Now, if the classes in the first semester, the classes in the first year, the first 2 I showed you, you must take those before the second 2. If you take the first one and fail, you can still sign up for the second one. All right, but then you got to go back again and retake the first one. Okay, does that make sense?
And is that something where, I guess I just want to make sure. So you got the first semester, second, third, and fourth.
Yes.
So let's just say you fail the first semester course.
Yes.
I guess AWD. You can still take the second semester one, but then do you have to wait a whole other, I guess, year?
It would be, it depends because they offer stuff differently here than they do in St. Louis. But let's say that you took the class, let's say that you were in this class, the one that Grant is in right now, and he's not going to fail. He's got a strong A going, but let's say he failed and he wanted to retake it right away. He didn't want to even go on to the next class. Then he could go and take it in the seated version because that class will be offered in spring in St. Louis. That's why we're kind of staggering them. So if people want to go and retake a course, all right. Now in St. Louis, if you take it seated, you get to miss one more day than the number of days a week the class meets. So you can miss up to 6 days. Here, I give homework that's due every week. If you turn in the homework, you're marked as present. If you turn in nothing, you're marked as absent. For online classes, if you're marked absent twice, you get kicked out. Now, with that said, we've got a thing here that's called the ADRB. So let's say that you got COVID. I mean, we always give allowances for stuff like that. But let's say something happened. All right. This is called the Academic Disciplinary Review Board. So if you get kicked out of a class, you can fight it. All right. And my boss, who's over in the other building, he's on this board. And he was telling me they met last week. And he said they had 2 people who were kicked out. And he said the first one, they had valid reasons. They let him back in. The second one had exceeded attendance. They were going to let him back in until they found out he'd also been written up. He's a young guy, and he made awkward and unwanted advances to 2 different women. Well, that's a no-no. He did it once and was warned. He did it again. All right. So he's kicked out and he's gone. All right. But the way, like I said, that it works, it's different seated versus non-seated, because my classes, so if you decided you wanted to do this and you wanted to be here like Grant is, it's Monday. The first year's classes are Monday through Friday from 8:05 a.m. until 11:55 a.m. So it's almost 4 hours, like 3 hours and 50 minutes or something like that. All right. Then in the second year, it's 12:05 PM till 3:55 PM. All right, so my class this afternoon, we're having a lab in there, but that's where they are. All right. Now, I already explained to you that in my classes, that if you're marked absent twice, if I don't drop you, I get a nasty email from the people in St. Louis saying, you have to drop this person, you have to fill out the forms. Now, I always tell people if that happens, especially if you've got a very good excuse, just keep coming to class, keep watching the tapes, etc. And I'll let you, and there's a form that you fill out. And sometimes it doesn't even go to this thing. If, I had one guy, he was raised by his grandmother. Well, she got cancer and she died. All right. And he missed 2 or 3 weeks. It was really handling it badly. And I understand that kind of stuff happens. All right. So we worked around that with him. But again, if you're in a seated classroom, it's harder because they see you every day. All right. And I start classes on time. I might give them a minute or two, but if you take a seated class, so if you were to go to St. Louis and do this, for a class that starts at 8:05, if you come in at 8:06, you're marked tardy. All right. And if 2 tardies equals 1 absence. And if you come in, if the class starts at 8:05 and you're more than 15 minutes late, you're marked absent. So if you walk in at 8:20, you're absent. You can still stay, but you're marked absent for the whole day. Now, a lot of people think that's unfair, but it goes back to the fact that you get 2 grades while you're here. You get an A, B, C, or F, but you also get what's called a WEG. That's a work ethic grade. All right. So people who come to class every day, do their work, do what they're supposed to do, they get what's called an ME. And that means they meet expectations. When we get people who, sometimes they don't turn in homework, sometimes they don't do what they're supposed to be doing, etc. Then they get what's called a DNM. No, I'm sorry, an NI, what that means needs improvement. If they very rarely come or they do something in class, for instance, I had a student a couple semesters ago when I was teaching in the classroom, he kept playing games all the time. I kept telling him, don't do that. He'd stop, a week later, he'd be playing them again, etc. All right, then he gets a DNM. That means does not meet. Now, the reason that that's important is if you're here 2 years, you're going to get these grades every semester. One time you get them a semester. If you get 2 of these, unless you go through and are able to show what, you don't graduate. Even if you're an A student, you don't graduate. We also occasionally get people like this James that I mentioned to you before. He started up a study group on his own. He tutored people. We do offer tutoring. It's free. If you want a tutor, you make $10 an hour to be a tutor. But if you want to be tutored, it's free. All right. But James started all this stuff, did it on his own. If I was working in the classroom and I was helping a student and he was done, he'd walk around. Anybody need help? Hey, can I help anybody? He got an EE, and that means exceeds expectations. The reason that this is important is when we had one of our advisory committee meetings where we had people from business and industry, I had one guy who came up and he asked me, do you have any EEs? He said, we love hiring them. They're there 5 or 10 minutes early. They stay 5 or 10 minutes late. They're on the ball. They know what they're doing. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. It's very hard for me to give anybody on an online class something other than that. So most of the people who I have are online are getting that grade. All right. And that just means they're coming, they're getting the work done, etc. I do have a couple that for this semester, they're going to get this. Usually if you get it once, you get a talking to by your instructor. And I don't think with a needs improvement, I don't think that stops you from anything. I could be wrong, but I don't think it does. All right. So like I said, the whole program's online. I explained to you the 4 courses. All right. Now, not here. If I'm at home, I'm not dressed like this. I'm dressed like you're dressed, which is fine, right? But if you decide you want to go to the St. Louis campus and do the seated thing, you do have to wear the Rankin paraphernalia. In other words, you need a Rankin shirt. Okay, you can't wear blue jeans. You can't wear white socks. They're just trying to get you to even start to dress like you would dress on the job. And that all goes into your work ethic. And it's, if you have a beard, it's got to be at least somewhat tailored. You can't walk in with real scraggly stuff. All right. I mean, literally, we had a guy in here a few years ago. He didn't shave for 3 or 4 days. I talked to him about it. And he walked into class. He walked in a little bit early. I'm not making this up. My boss walked in and he said, the guy's name was Chris. And he said, Chris, nice weekend. He looked at him funny. Yeah. Why? He said, well, did you forget to shave? He goes, no, I'm starting to grow this beard. He goes, no, you're not. He said, I'd like you to shave it. He goes, okay, I'll do it when I get home. My boss pulled out a razor and a can of shave cream and said, no, you're going to go in the bathroom and you're going to do it now or you're going to leave. I mean, that's how they take this stuff to the extreme, but it's in a good way. All right, what we're finding is there are people in our advisory committee, that will tell us we only hire people from Rankin. All right, even in these tough times, they're looking for people. So I gave you that and I gave it to you quickly. Is there anything I haven't answered or anything any questions that you have on anything?
I do have one,
Sure.
For the online course, have you ever run to anyone that's like lost internet connection or?
Yes.
computer problem?
Yes. I've lost it. In fact, Grant, my student this morning, he said, this isn't the best connection in this room as compared, I'm in a different network when I'm in the other building. That has dropped in 6 years here, maybe twice. This one drops quite regularly. And if that happens, what I tell people is, hey, if you're on with me, and Grant let me know that this morning. All right. And he said, hey, in case I stop or you don't hear me, it's not that he said my connection dropped. That's why these are taped. It's the other reason. So if you lose your connection, you still have the tape.
I just want to make sure the absences.
Right. No, that's, like I said, with online classes, the absences are, you get, and that's a good question because it made me think of something I didn't mention to you. What you get in here in most classes is there's 4 types of homework you get. You get, for the first year only, you get written tests. These are right out of the book. All right, all the information's in the book. There's usually about 25 questions and they're multiple choice, A, B, C, D. All right, all the information's in the book. Okay, so that's the first kind. You usually get 1 of those a week, sometimes 2 a week, it just depends. Then you get homework, which is right out of the book. All right, and it's stuff that comes with the book. At the beginning of the semester, you get what's called a GitHub repository, and I show you how to download it, and it's got all your homework for the whole semester in. So you could work at any speed you want it to work. All right. But in addition to the written tests and in addition to the homework, you get lab work. And that's work that we have created on our own. All right. The lab work and the homework look very similar, but they're different problems. And sometimes you get quite a few. In 1 week, you might get a half dozen programs that you have to do. All right. The way that I set mine up is at a minimum, I will assign the work on Monday and it'll be due that the next Sunday. And Sunday at midnight. So at 11:59:59, it's due. If it's going to be something of some complexity, then you usually get 2 weeks to work on it. All right. The other thing that you get on average about once every 2 weeks is you get what's called a HOT, which is a hands-on test. Now, that's what's really been a struggle in here, because if you take a hands-on test in St. Louis and you're in the morning class, you get 4 hours. You can come in at 8, they'll give you the test, you get basically till noon. I can't do that here because I've got people all the time. There is software that I could use that could monitor when I don't want to do that stuff. I don't have the desire. I don't have the time to do that. So what I do is when they have a hands-on test, they get an email to them at 6:45 in the morning and it's due at 11:59:59 that night. And I've run that by my superiors to make sure that's okay. Because I don't know if somebody's going to take the test at 7 or if somebody's going to take the test at 7 a.m. or p.m. All right. And with that, again, so this right here, so this, you can't see it in here, but that's Grant right there. And he's in through, this is it right here. So he is in right now through Microsoft Teams. All right. And also with Teams, we don't do it very often, but if we have to, we can come in here and I can literally start up a chat session with everybody or with a student. All right. Not only that, they can literally, there's ways, and I show people how to do this, they can call into me from their computer. They can call me and we can have something where we're literally having a face-to-face over our computers. And by them clicking a button, I can see their screens. All right, so they can show me what they're doing and what's going wrong. I mean, I've got at least one student in the class, Grant, it's not Grant, but I've got one student, he weekly does that because he gets stuff, but it takes him typically a little bit longer than it does other people. So like I said, and I'm glad you said that because it made me think of it. But again, if you've got an email that you could write down for me, I'll send you, like I said, I'll send you all, in fact, I can do it right now if you want.
Hands-on test, is it, I mean, I'm assuming it's also just an online test that you're just.
Yes. Yeah, you get, you literally get typically a Word document that, and it's got a picture of what it should look like. The other thing that I do is on the day of the test at 8:05, I spend about 15 minutes and I say, hey, this is what it's supposed to look like. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And I tell people, like, if you're watching it at 8:05 and you got questions, ask. If you're taking it at 8:05 at night and you got questions, email me. All right. But I get, I literally get up every morning at 4:45, Monday through Friday, and I'm at the computer at 5:30. All right. The reason I'm telling you that is sometimes I stay up till 10, but sometimes it's 9. But even on test days, I try to stay up till 10. All right. So, and I tell people, hey, if you got questions after that, there's not much, I'm not going to be able to help you. All right. But again, I can come in here now and I can send you this sheet right here, which has got, like I said, it's got the YouTube address and it's got explanations of all the classes. All right. Whatever you want.
AW and then RANSIN at yahoo.com.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me grab that. See where I put this. Yes. Oh, that's fine. The desktop. Now, and if you decide, yeah, maybe this is for me and maybe it's not, and you want to come in another time, and let me know and I can arrange to be in here if you want to come and sit in on a class. Now, it's supposed to be during the shadow of tech times, and I'm taping this, which I shouldn't be, but I've let students come in just because they want to sit in on a class and see what it's like. I had a gentleman who came in when the class was online, but I was in the other building because they had a classroom for me. We only have 2 labs over there. That's why I don't have, one of the reasons I don't have a lab, but he came in at 8 and he sat there for 3 hours and watched me talk to the computer. All right, but he asked, like you're doing, he asked questions during the break and I showed him all the stuff I'm showing you now. But he's going to be a senior this year. I don't even remember where he said he was going to school, but he said, I'm definitely interested in this. And he said, I like the online format. So like I said, I'm willing to work with you on stuff like that. So let's
Would we
see.
just email you or would we just sign up the same?
Well, like I said, usually every month they have one of these shadow attacks. But if you're like, see, the reason I ask that you get a hold of me first is if it's a lab day, there's nothing that we're doing. So
Yeah.
there's nothing for you to watch. All right. The other thing though is let's say now Monday I'm going to be lecturing. We're going to start this database project. And let's say that you said, yeah, I'd really like to be in there. Now we can't come on Monday. Well, then you can go out and watch the tape. All right. And the way that these work too with the tapes is I try not to go more than 3 hours. The class is 350, but we also, and Grant hasn't had a break yet, so please take one if you haven't. But what I typically do is I'll lecture from 8:05 till 9:05, give them 10 or 15 minutes, and then go for another hour and give them 10 or 15 minutes and then go like another hour. All right, and the way that Teams works, I've had nothing but problems when I try to take something and pause it. So there's breaks in here, which you just would fast forward over, on YouTube, so.
And do you guys have, I just saw you guys are off on Veterans Day.
Yes.
So you guys do like holidays as well and breaks as well?
Yes, the way that it works, they've changed it over the years, just so you know, that hopefully that was sent, or it's being sent now, but, there you go. In the first semester, of course, we go about a week, and then there's Labor Day, okay? Then we get off Veterans Day. We have a lot of people who come here who are veterans, and they decided to commemorate it, which I think is nice that way. Then you get off, Thursday and Friday of Thanksgiving. That's it for the first semester. In the second semester, usually we meet a week, and then it's Martin Luther King Day, so you're off for that. Now, in the past, we had a week off, a spring break. What they decided to do 2 years ago was they would get rid of that, because we're done now, usually either April 30th or by no later than May 7th. So we've got students who are graduating, who are out there before 4-year schools that don't get done till the end of May or beginning of June. So they've already got a month, kind of a month lead time. So in the second semester, you get off that day. And there's one other holiday, I don't remember what it is. It might be President's Day or something, but there's 2 days that you get off. So yeah, that's basically how it's set up. Yeah, it came back to me, so I'm hoping that you got it as well. All right, so, and then that's the same sheet that I just went over with you, and again, at the bottom. So if you click on that, again, it brings you right back up to my YouTube channel. All right. Anything else? Any other questions either one of you have? The other thing too is, just so you know, I mean, it's like last weekend, twice a year at least, we have open houses. So last Saturday, there was an open house here. The whole campus was open, and I was in another room, and there were the other people who teach in the hardware stuff. They were in the lab next to me, and we probably had, I don't know, I probably had maybe 25 to 50 people in there. It was 8 to 12, but there'll be another one of those in spring if you're interested in that. All right. And like I said, if you contact me anytime, if there's anything I can help you with, etc. I used to always make high school visits. It's much harder with COVID and everything that's going on today. And in fact, up until 2 years ago, until COVID hit, I don't know where you go to school, but every semester I would have Lewis and Clark people come in, the Lewis and Clark Technical Center. I have 25 students in there, and we build a website in 4 hours, or we build an Android app in 4 hours. And I ended up getting a lot of people who ended up going to the program, which I really liked, because they have a really good work ethic and they're really good students. But like I said, if there's ever, some reason that you want to come in for something, just let me know and we'll arrange the time. That's not a problem.
I said you have one more question.
Sure.
So fourth semester, you guys said you guys used to make Android apps.
Yes.
What's the new thing that you do?
We are creating websites using C#. So in the second semester, you're using C# as a programming language to make business applications. In the fourth semester, you're using C# as a web programming application to make websites. Now, I've had people who've told me, I don't get it. Why do you have C# in the second and the fourth semester? And why do you do the other stuff in the first and third? It's because of the way stuff is staggered. It's because you can either start with the second class or you can start with the first class. So if we did the 2 C# classes together, and we did it like that, then people wouldn't be able to start either semester. And they can now. You can start either semester, either here or in St. Louis. Well, again, if you think of anything else, just drop me an email and that'll be fine. Yeah, I apologize like I said, it's on top of my desk, but it'd take 10 minutes to walk over there and walk, because I'm sure I'd be stopped by somebody and then walk back again, so.
Okay, that's fine. And you have, his email now
Yeah,
too. So.
right. And I've had, there was another guy, he wanted to come today, but he didn't because he works 8 to 5 and couldn't get off. But I've been in contact with him. I know that from what I looked, I think there's at least 3 or 4 people who are planning on starting. And in there, if you were to start in spring, if you're interested, there's also gonna be these 6 people who are in here now. Couple people are right on the borderline, so they've got to raise their grades up a little bit, at least 4 of them. Cause I got 3 A's and a B plus, and I'm hoping at least, like Grant's one of them here, hoping like crazy that all of them will be back in spring.
Do you also have anyone, like, I have my bachelor's in biology, so I've taken gen eds. Do you have anyone that comes into the program that already has gen eds
Yes.
that can transfer?
Yes. And Patrick out there
Mhm.
that you just saw, he can tell you all that. He handles all that. And I know they have agreements with other colleges. The only thing is, like, sometimes it's temporal, or in that if you took stuff 10 years ago, they won't let it transfer in. But if you took it a couple years ago, they will let it transfer in. And let's just suppose for a minute that you knew websites already. Okay, and you're like, do I really have to take this class? It's kind of a waste of my time. For the first 2 classes, you can test out of either one of them. All right, but now for the website class, you basically have to create a website with 4 pages, and you have to do the equivalent of all of our written tests. So you get a written test with 130 questions on it, and you've got to get at least 70%, which means you got to get 91 questions or more out of 130. But if you do that, and you go in and you create the website, you can test out of that class. All right, and the reason they're doing that too is, especially like in the hardware program, we've got students who are taking classes, it's called CCNA, but it's their CCNA hardware classes. They're coming in, they already have certifications. Why should they have to come back and take the same class again? So if they can prove that, but here we have to do it through test outs. So you can test out, and if you pass, great. It just goes into your transcript at credit given. It doesn't go in, nothing with your GPA or anything else. And if you don't pass, it doesn't go in your transcript, but you're expected to take the class. All right, we've had 2 people since I've been here who have tried. One did not pass. That the website was okay, but it didn't do very well on the writtens. And another one, the guy passed, and I said, are you taking? He said, no. I said, why? He said, because I've been making websites for years, but I don't know why I do a lot of things. I do. He said, because I'm totally self-taught. And he told me, and right now he's actually a Java programmer out in Maryland Heights. But he told me he's really glad that he took the class, because he said, now I do understand why certain things are done a certain way. But like I said, everybody's different. And the classes in the second year, there is no test out. You typically, in most classes too, have a semester project. So there'll be something that you'll start working on either halfway into the semester or more, like this database thing we're gonna do for a music site. That's gonna be their semester project, even though we're starting it late. Because we don't give like a midterm and a final. I give no finals. There are none. But for like a midterm, so when we transition over from HTML and CSS to JavaScript, when you're actually starting to program, you'll typically get the equivalent of a midterm in there. And it'll be make a site that does this. And then once you learn JavaScript, it'll be now add this JavaScript to that. And that's your project. Because again, the idea is that, and I showed you that before with James's, that you're going to go out and you're going to create yourself your own personal portfolio. And even with that, because I've had a couple people who've said to me, hey, we got to do this personal portfolio, and we have to do it by December 15th. That's the date it's due, or the 14th, something like that. And they're like, I don't know how to do any of this. I haven't taken that class yet. That isn't right. So I show them there's a product, and I just showed them this the other day, and I'm going to create a video on it very quickly. But it's called MobiRise. It's free. So you go out to MobiRise. It's mobirise.com. I'm sorry about that. I can't do much about that. But if you come out here and you actually go and you click this little I that I don't want this. If I click this little I that's right here, it actually runs it. It shows what it would look like in a website. So if I click my works, there's an example of some work. This is just garbage I put out here about me. No, that's not me, and etc. So I showed, and literally, I could make this thing in front of you right here. I could make it in less than 2 minutes. Because this is entirely drag and drop. All right. So in other words, if I come back, if I stop this and I bring this back up again, and I decide, let's just say I don't want this picture. All I have to do is click on that and I have to tell it what picture I want. So I browse, you know, and if I had a picture, I guess I do have one here, and it's going to look ugly, but there it is. That's all you have to do. If I decide I don't want this text here, I just highlight it and I put in, you know, something else. If I don't like the color, I can come in here and just click on it, click on color, and I can either choose my own color, or if I want it, I can just grab one of these. You can see how fast that is. So I'm going to be creating a video on that, hopefully this afternoon while my other class is in a lab. And I'm literally going to create something that's equivalent to this from scratch. Now, you don't have to make a picture that's that big. I wish I wouldn't have done that, but especially with that. But it doesn't take any time at all to do this. And I show you how to link this up, and you can set this up like I did, where everything is on one page, like I just showed you here. So this is again how it would look on the internet, and you could move around, or you can create each one of these as a separate page. I don't care how you do it. All right, it's totally up to you. There's the contact. All right, and when you do this, this will work. All right, so if I go out there and I type in my name, my email, and a message and click send, it'll send it out to me. All right, and again, I have had some of these people talk to me, some potential employers, when I'll go to the job fair and stuff. Like, we really like the fact that you have your students do these electronic portfolios. And I've noticed a lot of other schools are starting to do this now. I'm not saying we were the innovators, all right, but I've been doing it since I've been here for 6 years. All right, and I told them when they started with this program, I said, I'm gonna expect them to do this. And they're like, yeah, that's a good idea. You know, one other teacher in St. Louis was already doing it. So, and I don't think I can show you this because I think he took it off, but I had one of my students. He said, I don't know if this is available, and yeah, it's not. But Brady, I used to love showing his, because what he had on his portfolio is he put his first portfolio on there, and then you could see his last one, and they were so night and day. Brady is a data analyst out in Kansas. He's making a lot more money a year than I am. He graduated about 5 years ago. He met a woman, he said, at a bar, and she's from Kansas. She's a teacher and she loves where she is. And she said, if you want to marry me, you're moving there. He graduated and he moved down there on Monday, the next Monday. So, I mean, there's a lot of success stories I could give you. There's a lot of success stories Evan, my counterpart in St. Louis, could give you. You know, the school has a lot of good things going for it. They really and truly do. So like I said, take that for what it's worth. And if I can answer any other questions, feel free to contact me at any time. I will turn it around in 24 hours. It might not be 24 minutes, but I'll turn it around that day. Okay. All right. Well, very nice to meet you. Glad you came in. Hopefully, like I said, I've answered your questions, or if now you know what to do if you come up with more. All right.
Thank you so much. It's
You're
great
very
talking
welcome.
with you.
Yeah. Well, good luck to you, regardless of where you end up going and what you end up doing. So. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. You too. Grant, are you still out there?
Yes, I am.
All right. I don't know if you had to suffer through all that or not, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over the all of those queries and then talk a little bit more about what we're gonna be doing next week. And that's gonna be it for the class today. So anybody who's watching this tape, it's gonna be a little weird for them, but whatever. So let me close a bunch of this stuff here. And who knows, maybe you even learned something you didn't know about the program too. So. All right. So what we worked on though, and talked about the other day, this is very similar to what you saw in the movie Database. It's one table and it's got everything in it. All right. So what we looked at so far, you know, I gave you this, okay? And I did mention again that there are 5 There are 5 of these aggregate functions. There is sum, there is average, there is min, there is max, and I'm sure I'm forgetting one, but you get the idea. These, anything where you're summing and averaging, those can only be used on numeric values. These can be used on anything. So if I asked for the min and I had a list of names, it would show me somebody who started with A and then somebody who started with B, etc. The max would do it the other way. All right. So looking at these then, the first one literally just came back with 24 because that's how many movies we had. All right. Remember, when you do a select star, it shows you everything. You don't have to do that. If all I wanted for all the movies by year, let's just say the only thing I wanted was the title and the year that the movie was made. That's totally legit to do that. All right. So again, if I come through there and I do this, where is it? There it is. Oops. I hate when I do that. Come on. There we go. All right. So if I come in and try it again, and I do this, let's see, why did I lose everything here? Come on. There we go, SQL. All right, so if I go in and I run this, hopefully at least, it makes sense to you what should happen here. I should get a list of all 24 titles, followed by their year made, but it should be in order based on the year made, the oldest one first, and then if there are 2 that are by the same year, then the title in alphabetic order. And if I run this, all right, so if I come down here, there better be a go in here someplace. There it is. All right. Then you notice that's what I got. All right. So you can see 1927, 39, 41, they're in order. If I go down far enough, you'll notice that there's 3 of them made in 1994. But then the titles are in alphabetic order, F before P before T. All right. If I go back and I run that same query, and I just change this, let's do the year made, we'll change it to descending. Remember, putting ASC there or here, that's optional because it defaults to ascending order. If I want it in descending, I must put the DESC in there. So when I do this, it's the same information, but notice now it's in reverse order basically. All right, and I did have it set up so these are still in ascending order based on the title, these 3 1994 movies. All right, so let's take a look at a couple more of these. Not that one. All right, so next, these are a couple of those aggregate functions that we talked about before. So again, why do I keep doing that? I don't know. We're going to run the min function, we're going to run the max function, and we're going to run the average function here. The average function by default usually gives you a value that is 6 decimal places. So I've told it I want it to round the answer that I get to 2 decimal places. And for the shortest movie, or the one with the smallest running time, I want to call it shortest. The one with the longest running time, I want to call it longest. And there's 24 movies, so there's 24 running times. So I want it to add up all 24 of those and divide by 24. And that's going to give me the average. And then I want to round that average to 2 decimal places. All right. So I can come in here and grab all that stuff, run this, and the shortest movie in there is 96 minutes. The longest one is 207 minutes, and the average time is 147. And again, I've renamed those columns. Typically, when you rename columns like that, it's typically referred to as aliasing, because that's what you're doing. All right, then next. This is using count again, but it's also using it with something called group by. Let me run the query, and then we'll go back and decompose it and take a look at everything that's in there. So this one is going to say give me a count and show them by category. Again, we'll run it and then we'll go back and look at it. So this says, out of those 24 films, there are 9 action films, 5 dramas, 4 crimes, 2 science fictions, and 1 of the rest. All right. And oftentimes, the reason that I like to show queries like this is oftentimes if you are doing database work for a company, this is where I could check and see, well, what's my best selling product? What's my worst selling product, etc. All right. So again, when we did this query, we said select the category. So that's this, and then a count of each category. Now, if I didn't put a group by in here, if we didn't do that, it would probably have like action one, action, I don't know what it would do, but we told it to categorize it. We said we want you to group it, and group it by what? Well, category would make sense in here. That's really the only thing kind of that all these films have in common. All right. And then we said to take those results and order them in descending order, because that showed me the one with the most films, and these are the ones with the least films. And I didn't do any other thing. We could have gone in here and also added, all right, just so you see this, we could have also said, if there's any ties, like the ones that have 1, then we could say do it by category, but do it in ascending order. And then you'll notice in here, these 4 are not in any kind of order, biography, adventure, etc. But if I run this again, what didn't it like? Oh, okay. Order by count, ascending. Let's see, what did it say here? Select category, unknown column category. That's right, because it's not called, no, it is called category. All right. I think it's the group by doesn't like us doing it like that, but there is a way to do it. All right. There actually is a way. I don't get into it in this class, but you can do programmatic stuff in here. What do I mean? You can actually program like the equivalent of a switch statement in here. So you could say, show me this if this condition is met, show me this if this condition is met, etc. So this is a query language, so technically it is not a programming language. But over the years, what has been done is they gave it programmatic types of features. All right. Okay, let's just quickly go through the rest of them here. And here, just show me the action movies. Again, I wanted to make sure you had plenty of these that did the where. The where, again, is criteria. If I did a select star from top 25 movies and I didn't put a where in there, I'd get all 24 of the movies. Putting it in like this, I should get those. I think we said there were 9 action movies. And they've changed something in here too that they used to not show. I want to show you this. So if I run this, you'll notice not only does it show it, but it actually blocks off the column that we asked for. And it's showing you right there that those are all action movies. Now, we could have done other things in here. We could have said, we could have grouped them by the rating, etc. So there's a lot of stuff that could be done. All right. In fact, if we try doing that, let's see if we can do that or if it gives me an error. And I'm going to say group by category. It may give me an error. If it does, we'll just go on. Yeah. So it says unknown column category in group statement. All right, so group by, okay. But if I do come in here and do this, instead of star, I think if I say title category, see if it takes that. Still didn't like it. Unknown column category in group statement. All right. All right. There's just different things that you'll work on with this. Okay. All right. So there's nothing wrong with a query except I've got it in mail form. In other words, something that I put in there was breaking the syntax rules. All right. So these show me how many movies were made before 2000. And I'll just run that one because the other one is showing me how many were made after 2000. All right, so if I run this one, I think it comes back with like, I don't know, 15 or something like that. Oh, 21. So 21 out of the 24 movies, all right, were made before 2000. And how could I even check on that if I wanted to? I could always go back to here. And if you look here, I'd have to manually count. Well, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Those are the only 3 in here that are before the year 2000 or after the year 2000. All right. Then this was a little goofy, but I wanted to show you this because you can do what's called pattern matching in here. So this says, I don't care what the movie title starts with, but it must end with an A or an E or an I or an O or a U. So if I run this one, if I run this, notice it finds, I think, 5 or 6 movies. It was something like that. Come on, what's the problem here? There we go. So notice Cain ends with an E. Godfather, those are Roman numerals, but it's 2 I's, so it ends with an I. Psycho with an O. A New Hope with an E. Casablanca with an A. And 7 Samurai with an I. All right, so it found those. Now, the other one I said was the same thing, but instead of having it end, so this is a wildcard character. That means 0 or more characters followed by an A. If we do it in the other direction, it's an A followed by 0 or more characters. So this is an ends with, and this is a starts with. I believe there's one movie, I think it was an Indiana Jones movie, and I think that was the only one that started with a vowel. All right, let me double check. I'm pretty sure when I ran this before, that was what it did. So whoops. Yep, there it is. Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. All right, there's just 1 or 2 more. In fact, that was it. So again, what I will do then on Monday, it's my responsibility that I want to have those 2 videos out there. All right. And I also want to have gone back and reread 2021 and 22. So there is a chance I may do a little lecturing on 1 or more of those chapters on Monday. I don't think I will. I think we're just going to start on the project. And what we're going to do first is we're going to get the, for lack of better words, kind of the cluttered stuff out of the way. And what I mean is we'll build the splash screen and we'll build the interface, and then we'll go add the database to it. We could build the database first, then build the interface and then add the database, but you're used to building interfaces now, so I don't think it's going to be a problem for you or for anybody else. All right. So I'm sorry it was a little scattered-brained of a period here. All right. She actually, the lady who was, it was a guy and his sister, and she asked tons of questions. Usually when people come in here, I'll stop. Do you have any questions? No, no, no. But she asked a lot, so that's why it took a little longer than normal. So do you have any questions on any of this stuff that we went over?
No, I don't think so.
All right. All right. So like I said, you can plan on Monday. There's a better chance than not that we're going to start on this project. And I'm going to do it with you. All right. And I'm going to do it nice and slow. I'm going to have it drawn out as far as what I want. And I will also make sure that I will have sent you this file right here, you and everybody else. All right. So that's it. Have a good weekend then. Remember, there's no class tomorrow because of Veterans Day, and I will talk to you Monday morning.
All right. Sounds good. You have a good weekend too.
Thank you.